Hello again. I dare say that viewers will remember all the fuss about the plans to introduce identity cards when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. A new law was planned, and it was all systems go until Labour was voted out of office in 2010, and the coalition which took power that year quietly dropped the idea. It has now been revived, and an enormously far reaching system is due to be brought in this year. The amazing thing is, nobody to whom one speaks knows about this. This is because the government is doing the whole thing on the sly in a very cunning way. In the first place, they're not bringing in a new law because that would at once alert everybody to what is going on. Before you know it, people will be organising campaigns against the business. They're simply amending an existing law. A few days ago, I remarked that after all kinds of tricksy things that the government found they could get away with during the COVID business, it was a racing certainty that they would use these same methods again because they've been found so very useful. The new ID cards are a classic case of how this is being done. Many of the restrictive laws relating to the lockdown were brought in not by introducing a new law and bringing before Parliament for debate all the ideas, the paraphernalia attached to the lockdown and so on. It was achieved simply by an administrative alteration of an existing law. So it was that we saw restrictions on our liberty instituted by amending the Public Health Control of Disease Act 1984. No democratic accountability or debate needed. The same thing is being done with the new digital ID cards, which are being brought in by an amendment to the 2017 Digital Economy Act, which was passed 5 years ago and everybody has forgotten about. Cunning, no? The way that it's being pushed through is quite enchanting. Though obviously the government is aware that at some stage people will start complaining, so they've launched a public consultation on changing the law, changing the 2017 Digital Economy Act, but they're doing it in such a way that no one has even noticed what's happening. In the description to this video, I give a link to the consultation on draft legislation to support identity verification, which was published last week. What's that? You haven't heard about it? Of course not, because it's been deliberately given as boring and innocuous a title as is humanly possible. What is actually being done is utterly appalling. At the moment, my local authority knows nothing at all about me, other than my name and address and the fact that I send them my council tax each month. I don't think they need to know any more than that about me, really. Similarly, the Inland Revenue don't know anything about me other than how much money I earn each year and the amount of tax I pay on it. The police, of course, don't know any of this. Why should they? Do the Ministry of Defence need to know about any of my business? Probably not. Very soon now, all these bodies and many more will have access to every bit of information about me and my life. Let's listen to the Parliamentary Secretary at the Cabinet Office, who will explain what the government are up to. This government has made a commitment to improve the way that data and information is shared and used across the public sector to deliver better joined-up services and exceptional outcomes for our citizens. People often access government services in times of great need, and services must provide the best possible experience for users while maintaining privacy, trust, and building confidence. Well, that sounds harmless enough, doesn't it? They're just making our lives easier. What it does mean, though, is that a new government identity verification system will be needed to access government services. This government identity verification system is, of course, a digital ID card, and the government hope that because it will not be a physical object, nobody will cut up rough about it. The talk about data sharing should be enough to set alarm bells ringing. What data are we talking about? Here is the list. Public authorities will process the minimum number of data items known as attributes necessary for verifying the identity of an individual. Examples of attributes include user's full name, date of birth, home address, email address, photographic images, various identifiers such as passport number or driving license number, attributes held by government departments necessary for verifying the identity of the individual, the outcome of identity checks previously performed on a user, and transactional data, for example, income. In other words, this is 10 times worse than a simple identity card because under this new system, all kinds of people will have access to every bit of information about your life. Your local authority will be able to find out at a glance how much you are earning. Your photograph will be on record. This is an identity card, but one which is online rather than one you keep in your wallet. I expect you want to know who will have access to all this information about you. This information is contained in Appendix 4. Let me read out who will be able to read all those, what they call them, attributes. Home Office, Ministry of Justice, the Lord Chancellor, Ministry of Defence, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, Department for Levelling Up, Department for Education, Department for Work and Pensions, Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, Her Majesty's Land Registry, County Council in England, District Council in England, London Borough Council, Common Council of the City of London, Council of the Isles of Scilly, the Greater London Authority, the Cabinet Office, Department for Transport, Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Disclosure and Barring Service. This, then, is the end of privacy and the beginning of complete control over all of us, in which anybody working for local authority or for government, any government department, the police, anybody else, will be able to have access to all the information about us at a glance.